So welcome friends, welcome to your channel Efficient Corporates. This is again a series of video on our playlist which is going on how to increase work productivity for corporates. So in the first video, just to give a bit of recap to you, the first video we discussed on what are the different rules for office efficiency, and in the second one we discussed that what are the different tools that we can use for office efficiency. Then the fifth rule which we had discussed was automation, and then we were discussing on how we can use different tools to automate our work. So if I am just to give you an example, we gave two methods of bringing in office efficiency. The first one is to use Excel templates, where we can make in our Excel templates, customize it. We can have a backend through which the data will flow and the entire table can be made. So that was one way of making your work more easy rather than making the reports again and again. The issue with this was that a lot of data cannot be put in the backend. So then the solution came in form of a Power Query, where we said that the data need not be collected or put in the Excel file. We can establish a connection, where we discussed on how to establish a connection. So that was the part of Power Query. So in this video, what we will be doing is we will, for those who already know Power Query, this video might not be so relevant and might be very basic. But for those who have heard this word for the first time, yeah, उन्होंने ये सुना हुआ है, but they have never used Power Query. So I'll try my best that we start from a very basic so that you get a good idea, and then we can work around on how we can implement Power Query on automating your MIS. So it's going to be a very exciting video. Let's start. Okay. So now, for those who have heard this word for the first time, you will just find it at what is Power Query. Is it different from the Excel file which you are using, or it is within the same system? So the first thing is, if I am to define Excel Power Query to you, it is a simple ETL tool. So what do you mean by ETL? It's a acronym for extract, transform, and load. So what does it mean? So in Excel, if you forget everything of Power Query, just think that what do we do when we are building an MIS? What do we actually do? We take a report from SAP or from a website or from a Tally software or from any software. We have the rows and columns in a table format, right? So we extract the data, then we transform the data. So what do we mean by transform? We might add few more columns based on some logics. We might do some VLOOKUP. We might do some COUNTIF, some if statements. We might add some conditional columns, make the complete data set, and then we load that data. Load means we basically present that data in form of some graphs, in form of a table or a pivot chart or something like that. So basically ETL stands for the 3 steps process of making a MIS. So since we are in corporate, so we can better relate it with an MIS preparation, where we extract the data, transform the data, and load the data into our desired format. So a Power Query is an ETL tool, and we will be seeing that how we can use Power Query for doing these ETL operations. For cleaning the data sets, so basically cleaning is a part of the transform method, where we can filter out rows, we can change the data types, we can bring the data types into the format that we want, connecting different Excel sheets. So basically the VLOOKUP thing which we do, that is nothing but merging of 2 Excel files, where we say that based on a vendor code, give me the vendor name. So we are basically merging 2 data Excel tables, but just the thing is that we are saying I only need these vendor codes which I have in my data set. So connecting with different data sets. So Excel Power Query is very good at it. It has a great user interface. So if you might have seen my earlier video where I showed you some code, so that it might feel like we have to write some code in Power Query. So I'll just give an example over here, that if you look at this main query, I'll just that when you start using it, the interface will be quite user friendly. For now, it's not. Yeah. So if you go to advanced editor, you can see there are some codes written, right? There is a nested join, there's some expand table, all these things are there. So if I tell you that you have to learn all these things to make it, then it might not be a very good learning curve for you. But we have all this data, click and drag and drop options, for due to which it becomes a super user friendly, and anyone who is a beginner can learn it. So that is what it has a great user interface, just a click, drag and drop things, and there is barely any coding or barely any writing of code involved, and it is a steps recorder. So the Power Query tool is best for you when you have to perform a certain steps in a particular sequence to a data set. एक आपने डेटा सेट एक्सट्रैक्ट किया एंड द ट्रांसफॉर्म है, उसमें आपको एक पर्टिकुलर सेट ऑफ स्टेप्स करने होते हैं, लाइक आप ऐड फ्यू कॉलम्स, रिमूव सम रोज, फिल्टर आउट सम रोज, ऑल दिस थिंग्स. So Power Query is a tool to help you with it. It is not a tool that is external to Excel, I would say. For Excel 2016 and above, it is a part of the Excel itself. Like when I go to the Excel, I don't need any extra add-in or any other software. It is within the data type. So how to install it, we will be discussing. So extracting data, when we call, we can extract data from Excel files, PDF files, CSV, JSON, any kind of database. If you have been working with SQL database or any other kind, folders and websites and even APIs. So all these things are there. We will stick ourselves, since in finance, we mostly deal with Excel files, PDF files, and JSON files. JSON files for those who are working in GST. So we will be sticking ourselves to these file formats, but Power Query is capable of handling many other file formats. So use case, when we can use it. So one is multiple regular MIS, when we have to make an MIS. The next thing of use case of Power Query, which is very essential, I feel, is large data sets. What do I mean by large data sets? Is the data which are beyond 10 lakh rows. Like if you have to deal with data which is like 1 crore of rows or like 10 million rows, how do you do it in Excel? Because Excel has a limitation. So Power Query comes to the rescue, where you can actually combine more than 10 lakh rows, and you can load it in form of some summary, because it may be that you do not want the unit level or transaction level data, you just need a month-wise details, but the rows are like more than 10 lakhs. So you can't load it in Excel and then make a pivot table, but you can do it in case of Power Query. Datasets integration. So the cases where we have to just like a VLOOKUP, where you have to integrate two sets of data. There is a vendor code and you have to bring in the new vendor name of that vendor code. So how do you do it? So Excel queries, Power Query is very good at data integration, handling multiple Excel sheets, regular data updation, like the cases where certain things gets updated on a daily basis and the file is dynamic. So in that case, you can have a Power Query which will be reading the latest file and then updating the data based on the latest file. You don't have to manually do anything. You can just write some logic to manually update the file with the latest data. And the next is data visualization. So this is not a case of a Power Query, but it's somewhere we also involve Power BI in it, because the end result of Power Query is the input for the Power BI. So in Power BI is a different topic altogether. We'll be discussing later on. So these are the use cases for finance. Now, in this video, since there may be many people who have not worked in Excel Power Query before, so we will be talking about the basic installation process. For those who have an inbuilt Excel 2016 and onwards, they do not have to do anything. You just can just check your Excel. If you have this data tab over here, where you can extract, get data from file or get data, all these database options are coming, then congratulations, you don't need to do anything. But for those who are using a older version of Excel, still there is hope for them. They can download it from this link which I have given. Also, link will be there in the description box. You can download it from there. I'm just clicking on this link. When you click on this link, you go to the Microsoft website, and here we have the Power Query. You can select your language. It should be English, of course. I'm going to download now. You have to choose a 32-bit or 64-bit. So most of us go to this PC and properties, and when you right click on properties, you will get this settings file where you can see your system type. Okay, so it's a 64-bit operating system. You can download this 64-bit file for your next option. So it will be beginning it by itself, and yeah, it has started downloading. Just save the file. Now download, the way to download is very, like, the way to install is very easier. Just MSI installer, Microsoft installer, and go to downloads where I've downloaded it, and just double click on it. In my case, it will not download or install because I already have this Microsoft Excel. It is saying to close the Microsoft Excel. Let's see. But those who already have 2016 and above, they do not need to do it, and for them even it won't be installed. Actually, it will give us an error that it is not applicable. I'll just cancel it. I'll just do it again. Preparing to install. Now Microsoft Power Query requires the 64-bit version of 2010. So only for those who have a older version, they can install it. and you'll get like multiple tutorials on YouTube on how to install it and the basic stuff, so that you can have a look. So this was around installation of the Power Query. So once you have that installed, you will be having that data tab into your Excel workbook wherever you open it, and then we can see that how you can start making your own Power Queries. So this much for this video, and how to make the Power Queries and how it will actually work, we will see in the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.